Philadelphia, mid-1700s. Smoke rose gently from chimneys. Horse carts rattled over cobblestone. Church bells echoed through the morning air. It was a city still under the shadow of the British Crown, a city where merchants bargained, sailors swore, and preachers shouted sermons in crowded squares. Into this world, in 1746, a child was born to John and Susanna Rush. His name was Benjamin. He did not grow up in a house of luxury or political power. His father was a gunsmith, a craftsman, a man of hands, not titles. His mother helped run the family shop. They were hard-working, respectable, not wealthy. But fate would test him early. When Benjamin was still young, his father died. The home fell quiet. The workshop shut. His mother now carried the weight of a family alone. And in that era, for a widow to survive required iron resolve. She found it. She opened a small store in Philadelphia, sewing materials, goods, tools, whatever she could trade. Long days, late nights, counting coins by lamplight, bargaining with sailors who smelled of rum and storms. She did what she had to do, and the boy watched her do it. This shaped him more than any lesson in books ever could. Pain can break you, or it can make you strong. And he chose the second. Benjamin did not distract himself with play. His refuge was study. He devoured books. Not just one subject, everything. Language, science, history, medicine, philosophy. He was not merely intelligent. He was driven. His teachers noticed the intensity in his gaze, a calm, unwavering focus, like someone who already understood time was limited. By 14, he entered the College of New Jersey, later Princeton. Most students were older, confident, worldly. Benjamin was younger, smaller, quiet, but brilliant. He finished lessons faster than others learned them. He debated with precision. He wrote with clarity beyond his years. He did not raise his voice, yet when he spoke, the room listened. He learned one lesson there that would guide his entire life. Knowledge is not for pride. Knowledge is for service. After graduating, he felt something pulling him further, something across the ocean. To become a physician, not just by colonial standards, but by the highest standards of the world. So, still young, barely a man, he boarded a ship bound for Scotland, home to the greatest medical school of the age, the University of Edinburgh. The voyage was long and brutal. Waves towered like mountains. The ship groaned like a living creature in pain. Passengers prayed. Some wept. Some cursed. But Benjamin, even in fear, read. By lantern flame, as the sea roared, he studied anatomy, chemistry, medical theory. Knowledge gave him calm, not because it kept him safe, but because it gave him purpose. When he finally set foot in Edinburgh, he did not walk like a boy from the colonies. He walked like someone who knew why he was there. Lecture halls filled with the sons of nobles and scholars. Yet the young American sat in the front row, not to be noticed, but to learn everything. He asked questions others were afraid to ask. He dissected carefully, not quickly. He listened more than he spoke. And the greatest physicians in Europe recognized him. They said, "This one is different." But greatness did not tempt him to stay. Instead of accepting comfortable appointments, promising careers, or European respect, he looked back across the ocean, toward a land still unformed, still unclaimed, still struggling. America. He returned home, not to seek fortune, but to serve. And when he stepped back into Philadelphia, something was changing. Whispers of rebellion, discontent in taverns, anger beneath polite conversation. The colonies were waking up. And Benjamin Rush, newly returned, newly trained, newly sharpened, was about to become the mind and conscience of a revolution. Benjamin Rush was born on December 24, 1746, in Byberry, a small Quaker village on the outskirts of Philadelphia. His family were devout Quakers, committed to simplicity, education, and moral responsibility. From an early age, Rush showed signs of exceptional intellect. He was curious, constantly asking questions about the natural world and the people around him. His father, a prosperous farmer and a devout Quaker, nurtured Benjamin's intellectual curiosity, often engaging him in discussions about morality, religion, and civic responsibility. By the age of 8, Benjamin was already reading complex texts, absorbing knowledge about science, history, and philosophy. Quaker education emphasized both moral development and intellectual discipline, which shaped Rush's character. While the Quakers discouraged ostentation, they encouraged education, debate, and ethical reasoning. Young Benjamin would often walk along the fields near his home, contemplating questions of human nature, ethics, and the responsibility of the individual to society. At age 14, he entered the Academy of Philadelphia, a precursor to the University of Pennsylvania, showing early mastery in classical languages, mathematics, and science. His teachers were impressed by his dedication and capacity for critical thinking. Yet, he often felt a tension between the Quaker ideals of pacifism and his emerging sense of duty toward societal reform. This internal conflict would later shape his revolutionary spirit, as he struggled to reconcile moral principles with the need for decisive action. During his formative years, Benjamin also became fascinated with medicine. The influence of local physicians and the early writings of European medical pioneers captivated him. By 16, he had decided that medicine would be his calling, a field where science and service to humanity could merge. He began apprenticing under local doctors, learning not only about treatments and anatomy but also about the social and moral responsibilities of a healer. These early years set the foundation for Benjamin Rush's future as a physician, revolutionary thinker, and social reformer. His sharp mind, moral conviction, and commitment to public service would later make him one of the most influential figures in American history, whose work touched medicine, education, and the very fabric of a nation on the brink of independence. At the age of 14, Benjamin Rush had already shown an extraordinary aptitude for science and medicine, and by 1760, he formally began his medical apprenticeship under Dr. John Redman, a prominent physician in Philadelphia. Rush absorbed every detail of the craft, learning anatomy from cadavers, observing treatments for fevers and infections, and developing a meticulous attention to medical ethics. He was fascinated not only by the science of medicine but by its potential to alleviate human suffering. By 1766, driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge, Rush embarked on a life-changing journey to Europe, a bold move for a young American in his 20s. He first arrived in Edinburgh, Scotland, one of the world's leading centers of medical education. Edinburgh's medical school was a hub for revolutionary ideas. Teachers emphasized empirical observation, experimentation, and scientific reasoning. Rush thrived in this environment, absorbing advanced knowledge of anatomy, chemistry, and the burgeoning field of psychiatry. During his time in Europe, Rush also traveled to London, where he studied under the famed anatomist William Hunter. In London, he observed some of the most advanced surgical procedures of the time and engaged in heated debates with physicians about medical theory, ethics, and public health. He was particularly drawn to the concept that medicine should serve society, not merely private interests, a philosophy that would guide his entire career. Rush's European journey was not solely academic. He explored the political and social currents sweeping through Europe, from the Enlightenment ideals of liberty and reason to debates about social justice and human rights. These experiences expanded his vision beyond medicine, instilling in him a lifelong commitment to civic responsibility. He saw how medicine, science, and politics could intersect to improve the lives of ordinary people. By the time Rush returned to Philadelphia in 1766, he was a transformed young man. He was equipped with cutting-edge medical knowledge, a progressive approach to healthcare, and a deep understanding of the ethical responsibilities of a physician. But more than that, he carried with him a broader vision, that a citizen, guided by knowledge and conscience, could influence society profoundly, whether through medicine, education, or political action. This vision would soon propel him onto the stage of revolutionary America, where his talents and convictions would shape not only the health of a nation but its moral and intellectual foundations. Upon returning to Philadelphia in 1766, Benjamin Rush quickly established himself as one of the city's most promising young physicians. His European education had set him apart. He combined rigorous scientific training with a moral vision that saw medicine as a service to society. Yet, the turbulent political climate in the American colonies soon drew him into a realm beyond medicine. The years following his return were marked by growing unrest against British rule. As acts of taxation and regulation, such as the Stamp Act and the Townshend Acts, stoked resentment among colonists, Rush began to see the fight for liberty not merely as a political struggle but as a moral obligation. Influenced by Enlightenment ideals he had encountered in Europe, he believed that a just society required active, informed citizens, willing to defend their rights and uphold the principles of equality and human dignity. Rush's revolutionary awakening was also shaped by his Quaker upbringing. Though Quakers advocated pacifism, Rush struggled with the tension between nonviolence and the moral necessity of resisting tyranny. Unlike many of his contemporaries, he sought a rational and ethical justification for revolution, grounding his political activism in both reason and conscience. This made him a unique voice among the leaders of the burgeoning independence movement. By the early 1770s, Rush was actively participating in Philadelphia's political circles. He wrote essays and pamphlets advocating colonial rights, emphasizing the importance of self-governance, liberty, and justice. He argued passionately that oppression by a distant monarchy was not only politically unjust but morally indefensible. His eloquence and clarity attracted the attention of key revolutionary figures, including Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and Benjamin Franklin, who recognized in Rush both intellect and moral courage. As tensions escalated toward war, Rush's involvement deepened. He joined committees and networks of revolutionaries in Philadelphia, contributing not only his ideas but also his medical expertise. He began treating wounded colonists, studying battlefield injuries, and preparing to support the cause of independence in practical ways. By 1776, as the Declaration of Independence loomed on the horizon, Rush had become a figure whose intellect, moral conviction, and civic engagement positioned him at the intersection of medicine, politics, and the revolutionary struggle, a man ready to serve both his patients and his country in the fight for liberty. As the American colonies erupted into revolution, Benjamin Rush emerged not just as a thinker, but as a man of action. In 1776, shortly after the Declaration of Independence was signed, Rush was appointed Surgeon General of the Continental Army in Pennsylvania, a role that placed him at the heart of the fledgling nation's struggle for survival. His responsibilities were immense. He was tasked with caring for soldiers, combating disease, and introducing modern medical practices in an army often plagued by illness and inadequate resources. Rush quickly became known for his meticulous approach to medicine. Determined to save lives, Rush pioneered innovative treatments and advocated for inoculation against smallpox, a controversial but life-saving measure that reflected both his courage and his commitment to scientific reasoning. Beyond his medical duties, Rush also contributed intellectually to the revolutionary cause. He wrote essays and pamphlets emphasizing the moral legitimacy of the struggle for independence, linking the fight against British tyranny to the broader ideals of human rights and ethical governance. He believed that a free nation required not just political independence, but an educated and virtuous citizenry capable of sustaining liberty. Rush's time during the war was also marked by deep personal sacrifice. He often worked long hours in makeshift hospitals, witnessing suffering and death on a scale that few civilians could imagine. Yet his resolve never wavered. His compassion and tireless work earned him the admiration of soldiers and commanders alike, and he became a trusted figure in both medical and political circles. Even amid the chaos of war, Rush's vision extended beyond the battlefield. He began considering the social reforms necessary for the young nation, advocating for improvements in education, public health, and the treatment of the mentally ill. For Rush, the American Revolution was not merely a military struggle, it was an opportunity to build a society rooted in reason, morality, and justice. His contributions during these pivotal years would leave a lasting imprint, shaping both the medical profession and the civic life of the United States for generations to come. After the conclusion of the American Revolution in 1783, Benjamin Rush turned his attention fully to the field of medicine, determined to transform healthcare in the young nation. He became a professor of theory and practice of medicine at the University of Pennsylvania, one of the first medical schools in the United States. In the lecture halls, Rush inspired generations of young physicians, combining rigorous scientific instruction with ethical guidance. He emphasized that medicine was not only a science but a moral responsibility. Doctors must serve humanity with knowledge, compassion, and integrity. Rush's influence extended beyond education. He wrote extensively on medical theory and practice, producing works that would shape American medicine for decades. He advocated for more humane treatment of patients, emphasizing the importance of sanitation, balanced diet, and preventive care. At a time when many hospitals were unsanitary and patients often endured cruel treatments, Rush championed reforms that saved countless lives. One of his most groundbreaking contributions was in the treatment of mental illness. Rush was among the first American physicians to argue that mental disorders were medical conditions, not signs of moral failing or demonic possession. He founded humane practices for treating the mentally ill, advocating for care, exercise, and education rather than confinement and punishment. His book, Medical Inquiries and Observations upon the Diseases of the Mind, became a foundational text in psychiatry, influencing approaches to mental health far beyond the borders of the United States. Public health was another domain where Rush left a profound mark. He was a vocal advocate for smallpox inoculation, recognizing that preventative medicine could save more lives than treatment alone. During epidemics, he organized efforts to educate the public, providing guidance on hygiene, quarantine measures, and vaccination. His writings stressed the social responsibility of physicians to prevent disease as much as to cure it. Rush also tackled social issues connected to health. He spoke out against alcoholism, arguing that it was both a medical and moral problem. He promoted public education on the dangers of intemperance, connecting personal health to societal well-being. In every aspect of his work, Rush sought to merge scientific knowledge with ethical duty, believing that medicine was inseparable from a larger mission to improve humanity. By the end of the 18th century, Benjamin Rush had established himself as a towering figure in American medicine. His teachings, writings, and reforms laid the foundations for modern medical practice in the United States. But he was not content to stop there. His passion for education, public health, and social reform would continue to shape the young nation well into the 19th century, demonstrating a vision where science, ethics, and civic responsibility converged in service of the public good. As the 19th century dawned, Benjamin Rush's life became increasingly dedicated to social reform. His vision of a just and enlightened society extended beyond medicine into education, civic responsibility, and human rights. He championed the cause of public education, believing that an informed citizenry was essential for the survival of democracy. Rush advocated for schools accessible to all children, arguing that knowledge and moral instruction were intertwined, and that a society could only thrive when every individual was given the opportunity to learn. Rush was also a committed abolitionist. He spoke out against slavery, calling it a moral blight on the nation and urging Americans to reconcile their pursuit of liberty with the suffering of enslaved people. Though his views were often controversial, he persisted, writing essays and giving speeches that framed slavery as both a social injustice and a public health issue, linking the physical and psychological harms it caused to the broader moral decay of society. In the realm of medicine, Rush continued to innovate. He trained a new generation of physicians, emphasizing ethics, compassion, and scientific inquiry. His advocacy for mental health care, temperance, and preventive medicine remained influential, and his writings circulated widely, cementing his reputation as the father of American psychiatry and a pioneer of public health. Despite his many achievements, Rush remained humble and dedicated to service. He spent his later years writing, mentoring, and corresponding with political and intellectual leaders across the nation. He believed deeply in the power of individual action to improve society, urging citizens to combine reason, morality, and courage in pursuit of the common good. Benjamin Rush passed away on April 19, 1813, leaving behind a legacy that was both broad and profound. He had shaped American medicine, advanced mental health care, fought for social justice, and inspired generations to link knowledge with moral responsibility. Today, he is remembered not only as a physician and revolutionary, but as a visionary whose life exemplified the ideals of service, ethics, and civic duty. In every hospital, school, and reform movement that traces its roots to his efforts, the impact of Benjamin Rush continues to be felt, an enduring testament to a life devoted to healing both bodies and society itself.